We're back in Nassau Harbour, diving deeper into the mystery of the wrecks we discovered beneath these waters. Could the burned hull site be connected to Henry Avery's legendary ship, the Fancy? And what will the clay pipes tell us about the age of the other wreck? Be sure to watch to the very end to find out how you can play a part in these Wreckwatch expeditions.
Henry Avery was the guy who lit the fuse and threw that grenade that started the Golden Age of Piracy.
The Bahamas has always been sort of this hub for illegal activity.
Another exploration here in the Bahamas. We're on the hunt for Henry Avery's ship, the Fancy. What will it reveal about the Golden Age of Piracy and of the greatest crime to ever take place on the high seas? And what will we learn about the most famous pirate to ever escape justice?
The thing with their fins is try and keep the sediment down, get some photos, some imagery, record it, and then we'll clean it off of it and do the same again, yeah? Sounds good.
After the discoveries made on their previous dives, the team was eager to return to Nassau Harbour. There is still much to explore, especially at the site of the burned hull. Hidden beneath the silt was a wreck that raised a tantalizing question. Was this simply another forgotten vessel from Nassau's long maritime past? Or could these burned remains somehow be connected to Henry Avery's legendary ship, the Fancy? But before anyone entered the water, the team needed a plan. One that would allow them to investigate the site carefully without disturbing the fragile evidence beneath them.
To be honest with you, if there wasn't a current there, I wouldn't wear any fins, because you shouldn't wear fins on a wooden hull site. But it's not an extended hull, it's quite sort of nucleated, and the fact that there's currents, if you didn't have fins, you'd be off Rose Island before you could say, Rumalakaway.
That's why you see when I'm there a lot, I have my fins up and I'm just moving around with my hands. One of the most exciting dives of my career has been on that burnt wooden hull ship that we found in Nassau Harbour. You would think, well, what is a burnt ship? Why is that an exciting dive for you? Well, as we've uncovered the shipwreck, we're finding just this beautifully preserved wooden planks.
Once you start to show me stuff, and I get interested.
I didn't show you stuff. You were just looking over my shoulder.
I get pumped. I get pumped. Now I was getting pumped at what you were finding and how you were finding it, and like anyone else that would have come in that area, they wouldn't have come across that like that. Yeah, I was taking it in. I was really enjoying that, enjoying the whole aspect and how you were into that. And then it was like, yeah, I was like, okay.
That was great to have you see you excited, because at the end of the day, it's not mine. It's Bahamian history and heritage, right?
Yeah.
The Fancy is an icon. It's the most important pirate ship that has never been found, and it's right here somewhere under these waters.
Before she became known as the Fancy, she was the Charles II, a heavily armed merchant vessel built in London to dive for wrecked treasure and attack pirates in the Caribbean. But in 1694, after months of unpaid wages and harsh conditions in Spain, her crew mutinied, and Henry Avery took command. He renamed her the Fancy, refitted her into a faster, more dangerous ship, and used her to launch one of the greatest pirate raids the world had ever seen.
Henry Avery was an incredibly charismatic leader. He had a lot of experience working in the Royal Navy. He could read the minds of men. He was an excellent strategist. He was good with intelligence. And he knew that the biggest payday in the world wasn't here in the Caribbean, Spanish treasure. You know, that paled in comparison to what was going on in India.
Avery was looking beyond the familiar pirate hunting grounds of the Caribbean. Across the Indian Ocean, the ships of the Mughal Empire carried a wealth on a scale few European pirates had ever imagined. Gold, silver, precious stones, moving between India and the Red Sea. And among those ships, one prize stood above all others: the Ganji Sawai, or Gunsway, a massive treasure ship belonging to the Mughal Emperor himself. For Avery, this was the target that could change everything. So we'll get down to the bottom and do a light dust off. I'm going to try and get from the surface, see how much I can get of the entire site.
Right.
If we can get enough, high enough above it.
And I need both details, the tree nails with the scale.
Yeah.
Then I need to do exactly the same, come up off the seabed, fly over the wreck vertically,
Right.
bird's eye view, try and make some photo mosaic images, stitch it together in software, and then we can make a site plan bit, which would be really exciting.
Exactly. We need to find true north from down below.
True North,
Yeah.
where are you?
I'll have my compass.
She's a fickle lady, that True North.
There's a lot of potential for remains to still be buried under the sediment. We only uncovered a small part of the hull, and it looks like there was a lot more. So I think if we begin to excavate, you'll see more of the side of the ship leading down into the keel. But it's hard to say, once again, without proper archaeological excavations.
So we're looking at the bottom of the sea here. It's about 4 meters down. You can see the seabed, you can see the stones, the rocks, the shipwreck. So, you know, it's looking good for some great visibility and filming today.
Returning to the site of the burned hull, the team continued to investigate the remains. This time, the work moved beyond discovery. It had become proper science. They began taking detailed measurements, shooting photographs, and collecting samples from the wreck. If this site was going to tell its story, every detail mattered. The size of the timbers, the layout of the wreckage, the condition of the wood, and evidence of burning. Together, these clues could help reveal the age, origin, and final moments of the ship hidden beneath Nassau Harbour.
The wooden hull had substantial shipwreck remains. There was a keel, there were some side timbers, and there was planking. And it actually looked like the side timbers were double planked, and it went off into the sand. So there's a great opportunity to uncover more of the shipwreck in the future.
Incredibly, nobody has actually gone looking, not just for pirate ships, but for any shipwrecks off here in Nassau. Not one has ever been published or officially declared to the government. And that's another reason why, I'm so excited to come here and dive these waters. Personally, I'd love to rewind the clock to the 1950s and 1960s, where the old timers tell us stories before the dredging of the harbour, that the seabed was just littered with finds. Every day you could go out and find glass bottles, ceramics, silver coins, bits of wood. It was just an Aladdin's cave of wonders. And that would be remarkable, but a lot of that has gone today. So we're looking for a slither, a kind of thin section of the past that just, if we're very lucky, might survive. So Chris and Mike are coming up with some samples. We've carefully taken some samples from specific parts of the ship, and he's going to go to the lab and we'll find out what species they are, and maybe that'll help us pinpoint whether this is a Caribbean ship, a Bahamian ship, or a British ship.
And so we actually measured them all out. We've taken photographs, and we've even recovered some of the wood samples, because we don't know where the shipwreck dates from. All we know is it's a fairly large ship, but was it made in the Americas? Was it made in the Caribbean? Or is it an English ship? By sending the samples to the lab, this could help us determine the location of where the ship was made. Who knows? Maybe this might be the fancy that we've been looking for this whole time.
Of all the wrecks lying beneath Nassau Harbour, could these burned remains belong to the most notorious pirate ship in history? After Avery's daring and brutal attack, he escaped with one of the richest prizes ever taken at sea, a fortune estimated at nearly $149 million in today's dollars. Avery eventually found refuge in Nassau, where he bribed Governor Nicholas Trott and handed over his ship, the Fancy. For a time, she remained here, sitting in the harbor and slowly decaying. Then the trail goes cold. Could the Fancy have been stripped of anything useful, burned to hide her identity, and left to sink beneath Nassau Harbour?
Some of our crew are getting really excited, and they are fancying that it could be the final resting place of the Fancy, but I'm not quite sure. There are stories that it would have been scuttled off Hog Island This was a big sucker with 46 cannon, very heavy, I think about 400 tons. I'm not sure it could have even got into the harbour. Maybe it would have been anchored in deeper water, but think about it. By then they've taken most of the cannon off it. They've looted all the cargo. We actually don't know where it was scuttled, but what we can say is the timing is right. It's a very well constructed ship. Okay, it's got these frames which quite often on merchant vessels, they've got bits of gnarled root and they show the bark of it. They've been made in a very haphazard, quick way. This is a very well designed and maintained ship, which could fit with the Charles II. So there is a possibility that this vessel, burnt back in time, probably by the pirates, could be the Fancy. But we need more analysis, right? We've taken samples of the wood, we're gonna send them back to the lab. What are the species? If the species of those wood come across as, I don't know, cedar from the Caribbean or from Latin America, it's not gonna be the Fancy. But if it comes across as oak, made in Britain, from the forests of England, bingo.
The burned hull raised the question of what may have happened to the Fancy after Avery reached Nassau. But to understand why Avery came here in the first place, the team had to look beyond the legend of buried treasure and into the darker world that made Nassau such a useful refuge. By the late 17th century, this was a place shaped by empire, smuggling, slavery, and political corruption. And Avery may have known that world well.
I think Henry Avery had a very clear view in his head of exactly what he wanted to do. There's rumors that in the past he'd already worked as a slave trader, selling enslaved Africans right here in Nassau. But one thing's for sure, he knew the reputation of this place, this land, and of Governor Nicholas Trott, who he was aware was highly corrupt, and he was banking on that fact. He knew he could pay off Trott, and that's exactly what happened. They rocked up to Nassau, came into shore on a small rowing boat and said, you know, if you're willing to give us supplies and support, I'm sure we can give you 20 pieces of 8 per man and 2 pieces of gold per person. And me as Henry Avery, you know what, I'll double it, and I'll throw in my ship as well. Governor Nicholas Trott, suddenly he was looking at thousands and thousands, you know, he was made. This is a highly corrupt governor, and this land did create governors who were no better than pirates, quite frankly.
If Avery was looking for a place where money could buy silence, Nassau offered exactly that. It was remote, difficult to control, and governed by men whose loyalties could be shaped by profit as much as law. But Nassau's pirate history was not only a story of corrupt governors and wanted men. It was also part of a much larger Atlantic world built on slavery, violence, and exploitation. And that raises a more difficult question. Were pirates truly different from the empires they defied? Did they offer enslaved people a path to freedom? Or were they simply another part of the same brutal system?
So some people say the pirate ships were the most democratic places on earth. The French, the English, the Spanish, even people of color all came together and worked together on these ships. What do you say about that?
I would say certainly yes, particularly when you compare it to, you know, the colonial laws at the time. You know, these colonial societies and these governments that tended to label these pirates as criminals were the same ones who had far more rigidly racist and oppressive, you know, systems of governance for themselves within these colonies and even in their proverbial motherlands, right? But in these pirate crews, you would have seen, of course, even Africans, many of whom were runaway slaves, though it was very nuanced now. So you also had those who would have indulged in the slave trade and had their own sort of slave trading business going. You had those that would have exploited Africans within their crews as well. But when you look at the figures that rose out of women, the figures that rose out of Africans, your Black Caesars, your Abram Samuels, your John Julians, who was both African and indigenous American, you could confidently say that none of these people could have rose to the same level in any colonial society. Overall, I would say that from the African perspective, the Golden Age of Piracy was this very complex period of history that provided opportunities for freedom for some.
It is one of the great contradictions of pirate history. Compared to the rigid racial laws of the colonies, some pirate crews offered a level of equality that was almost unimaginable on land. Men of different nations and backgrounds could share in decisions, divide prizes, and in some cases, rise to positions of authority. But that did not mean pirate ships were truly free societies. For enslaved Africans, the reality could change dramatically depending on which ship they found themselves aboard and which captain held power.
We have to remember that not all pirate captains had this equal atmosphere on board. Some of them, like Henry Avery, was a slave trader. Even Blackbeard, who had a black quartermaster, he used enslaved people as bargaining chips. These pirate decks were not fully free for black people, were they?
Oh yeah, certainly, but most of it would have been economic, and there was also a political reason as well. So these issues were very nuanced, very complex. You were pretty much at the mercy of the character of the person that was the leader of that pirate crew. Now, if you were lucky enough as a black person to be under Black Caesar's pirate crew, I'm sure there would have been a semblance of African liberation to it. They might have been more inclined to raid a known enslaver for the purpose of freeing these Africans. But of course, we have to be careful as historians not to sort of glorify and to acknowledge the nuance of these pirate crews. Though overall, I still stand on the point that they were far more democratic, less racist, less oppressive than the systems that the colonial governments were trying to implement.
For some enslaved people, piracy may have offered a rare chance to escape the plantation system. But that chance was uncertain, dangerous, and never guaranteed. Pirates could be brutal. They could be exploiters. Some traded in enslaved people themselves. And even when black sailors joined pirate crews, colonial authorities rarely treated them the same way as their white crewmates.
You have to think, when a pirate ship was captured, the white crew, they'd be arrested, go to trial, even if it was a kangaroo court. But the black people, they would be put in chains and sent right back to plantations.
Oh yeah, certainly, yeah. Plantations just like this here at Clifton Heritage National Park, as a matter of fact. And it just shows you the nuance. Again, it's very nuanced. But when it comes to that colonial government, their racial policies were quite rigid. So after Woodes Rogers came and we became an official Royal British colony, several people were executed who didn't accept the quote-unquote king's pardon. And of course, every black person who was not able to escape, they were required to enter these plantations.
This was the world Henry Avery entered when he came to Nassau. A place of refuge for pirates, but also a place shaped by slavery, corruption, and colonial power. For Avery, Nassau offered safety. For Governor Trott, it offered profit. But for the enslaved, the Pirate Republic was never a simple story of freedom. It was a dangerous and uncertain world where opportunity and exploitation could exist side by side, and where the line between pirate and empire was much thinner than legend would have us believe. After weeks of searching across the Bahamas, the team's time in Nassau was beginning to run out. But one site still demanded a return. The pipe wreck had already revealed a remarkable number of clay tobacco pipes, evidence hinting at a much older story beneath the harbor floor. The team needed one final dive to complete the survey, collect samples, and document the site before the expedition time came to an end.
Unfortunately, we know that the site has been impacted by development. But we've been back. We just need a small part of this wreck to be preserved, because hopefully then we can tell the story and figure out better what was this wreck and when did it happen.
Last dive, Chris.
Yes, yeah, finally, after 3 weeks of diving in the harbor here, it's our last day. And so there's a few more things you want to get from this site, right?
Yeah, it's grueling, but we've still got a job to do. We've got to keep our eyes peeled. We know there's some rigging. There's an isolated wooden plank down here. We need to get some measurements and recording of that. I'm really curious as well, because you can see right here where the pilings in the marine have gone straight through this shipwreck by ill luck. We've had a look on the far side and we found these planks and the pipes, but quite a lot remains. I'm curious about what's happening on this side. Is there a part of the vessel that we haven't investigated?
Yeah.
So I think we kick ourselves if we can check that out and put on our kid gloves and just have a very careful look.
We're back on the site. We're down there. Sean and Michael are taking their wood samples. They're continuing to uncover the remains of these pipes and other artifacts.
We did another dive. We took some wood samples. Just is incredible. Everyone said this site had gone. But if you use your forensics and your vision and your training, it's incredible what you can find. We found about another 100 pipes.
The pipe wreck sat in an area that had been heavily altered by modern development, with a pier and marina built almost directly above the site. Yet despite everything that had changed above the water, the team was finding that a significant amount of archaeology still survived below. For a harbor that has been used, dredged, built over, and reshaped for centuries, it was a remarkable discovery, and another sign that Nassau still had many secrets waiting to be revealed.
And I'm filming it, and I'm filming it, and I'm filming it, and often as the underwater cameraman, you know, and we can't talk, you're just recording hours of the stuff being revealed, which is exciting. But at the same time, as the underwater camera guy, I'm observing, and I am a part of it, but I'm not actually participating. And eventually I thought, okay, I think I've filmed enough of these guys uncovering something. I want to uncover something too. I want to have a go at this. So I started hand fanning, trying to copy the motions, you know, get the technique that these guys have. It's not as easy as it looks. You know, they really make it look easy. I'm slowly removing some silt and uncovering stuff when suddenly there, out of the plumes of smoky silt, was the shape of a clay pipe. And it's just like, I mean, how do you top that?
Chris pulled out his metal detector and had a little thing. We thought there'd be metal anywhere, but bang, no. He came straight on a patch of lead. So now we can add another piece to this jigsaw, showing that the ship was well made and it had lead sheathing to protect it from shipworms. There's all kinds of red brick as well. We found the bases of glass bottles. So we have actually a really good picture, but the real showpiece of this wreck are the pipes themselves. I've seen pipes from wrecks across the world, and usually they're just plain, a little bit boring, quite frankly. You can date them, but that's about it. These are incredibly ornately decorated. Got it?
Yep, got it.
Oh man, Neil.
Surfacing from the final dive, the team gathered to take a first look at what had been recovered from the site. The samples and artifacts were only part of the story. But even this quick examination offered new clues about what may still be preserved beneath the harbor floor.
Slight destruction and damage, still stuff down there. So look, there's a wooden tree now.
Oh, it's a heck.
I would have attached the keel or the frames once.
Well, at least we learned something about it. Where's the base then?
Let's check this out, Dad. There it is on Neil found this.
Oh, it's got designs on it. Cool, yeah.
So we got two really crucial bits of information today, which you only get from really careful sleuthing and forensics, right? So we know from the mystery burnt wooden wreck, there's no artifacts there, but it's made with these wooden tree nails, not iron, a bit of iron, but mostly these wooden tree nails. But we don't have a date. Okay, then we skip on over to this ship, which we have a date from, because there's little wood, but there's artifacts. The pipes date 1730 to 1750. Now Chris found with a metal detector a tiny bit of lead, which tells us from that ship was also sheathed in lead, because that's what you want. The Caribbean is full of woodworms. These are marine borers, you know, silent assassins at the sea that will eat your hull in under several months, so you're protecting your hull. And there, amongst the tiny bits of evidence, the bits of pipes and the tiny slithers of wood, there was a large wooden tree nail. Same date as our own mystery wood wreck, so that almost certainly is 18th century. So, you know, we got some good results today.
The first expedition in search of pirates and the remains of Henry Avery's fancy had been a success. But the discoveries also raised new questions. What was Nassau really like during the Golden Age of Piracy? And why did this harbor become such a perfect refuge for men like Avery? To learn more, the team headed into downtown Nassau to visit the Pirate Museum.
How amazing to be able to stroll down the docks of Pirate Town as it was 300 years ago. But Mike, in reality, where was Pirate Town in Nassau?
Well, we're standing smack dab in the middle of Pirate Town. But to get a better understanding of that, I've pulled out these old maps, and it's interesting to look at these. So we have this one here from the 18th and 19th century, and you can see Nassau's gridded out. There are lots of buildings all centered around streets in a town. And we go back to this early 18th century map, and you see the town is centered around the fort, and you see a little bit of structures along the coast. So we can sort of assume that this is how Pirate Town looked like. Everybody lived around the fort and then right along the coast.
It's amazing. These maps are incredible.
But it looks to me like it wasn't a particularly big place, right? This is quite small. It's not like the Pirate Republic of the imagination.
Well, there was only 700 people living here at the time. Not that many people.
Yeah, I mean, as I look around here, it really is stunning, and it almost takes my breath away. You've got the roofs made of thatched palm, which would have been authentic. A lot of wood used for the buildings. I mean, how would the walls have been made?
Well, I don't think they would have been stone like these recreations. They would have been more clay and mud and lime, not stone as we see here today.
Well, and I would imagine being such a busy port, they would have docks like this?
I don't know, first of all, you've got to remember that pirates lived loose and fast, right? There never were 700, 1,000 pirates here in Nassau. Half of them at least would have been out pillaging and raping and getting their prizes. So that's it, half the population already. And they weren't living here, the pirates. They weren't trying to build, in my opinion, some kind of community. It was all about just coming in, living in tents, going to the inn, spending their money, going back out to sea, press repeat until they were hanged or died in a storm. And I don't know, I don't think there were stone docks. There might have been some wooden wharves, perhaps.
I think they lived in the moment. We have to remember at the time of the pirates, there was no government here in Nassau.
So less kind of European image of a great port town, less Port Royal in Jamaica, which had a lot more ships, a lot more merchants, a lot more money. I hate to say it, but maybe it looked a bit more like a refugee camp.
Well, if you're going to live fast and die young, you're not going to spend a lot of time building a structure that's going to outlast you.
Yeah, absolutely, bingo. So, yeah, I mean, we're getting close to the reality of how the pirates really live, guys.
The Golden Age of Piracy lasted only a short time, but it left behind legends that have endured for generations. The Flying Gang, Blackbeard, Benjamin Hornigold, Calico Jack Rackham, Anne Bonny, Mary Read, and others. Their names have inspired books, plays, films, and countless tales of treasure, rebellion, and violence on the high seas. But beyond the myth, this was a real and important part of Bahamian history. Nassau was once the heart of the pirate world, a remote harbor where outlaws, smugglers, and former privateers built their own dangerous stronghold. And now, for the first time, using detailed historical research and high-end 3D digital modeling, we can step back into that lost world and see what Pirate Town Nassau may have looked like. With the expedition nearing its end, Sean and Chris met at John Watling's distillery to go over one of the most intriguing finds from the pipe wreck. After examining the samples recovered from the site, Sean had discovered new clues about the clay pipes. Clues that could help reveal when they were made, where they came from, and what they might tell us about the wreck itself.
Well, Sean, we made it. This was quite an adventure, and what better place to end it than right here at John Watling's distillery in Nassau, up on the hill above the harbor.
Yeah, the perfect setting. Pirates were all about rum, and John Watling was a pirate himself. And here's the treasure, right?
Wow.
Not gold, not silver, not pieces of 8, but for me, this is real treasure. You know, the sherds of everyday objects that bring the past to life.
Yeah, something that shows us, gives us a clue of what life was like back then, and to see these remnants of the past is just mind-blowing.
I mean, I've seen quite a lot of pipes that have come up from shipwrecks, and they are 95% of the time just plain. They're pretty cool, right? But they're plain, they're good for dating. These suckers, wow. I mean, they tell a story, right?
Well, so what is it that makes these special?
Well, you got the stem here where somebody would have been smoking from, and this is called the bowl. These are untarnished, there's no charring on it, so nobody's actually been smoking them. They weren't from the sailors. These were cargo items. And do you remember we saw those slithers of bits of wood sticking out with these shiny black stones?
Right.
That's part of the crates, they've gone, but again, there's just enough there to tell the story. And then we zoom into these, and hello, what's going on here? There's a rampant lion on one side, there's a unicorn on the other, and then around here there's a crest. And it says Je et mon droit. Well, strike me down. That is nothing more than the coat of arms of the royal family of Great Britain.
What better clue than that, right? That is incredible.
So that's the business end of the pipe, right? The bowl with all the decorations on it. But there's also a story at the further end. Can you make out these letters, Chris?
Looks like an I-B-A-X.
You know, and that's a mystery. Who was Ibax? You know, hello, I'm Ian Baxter of London. We just, you know, we don't know. I think it's probably two people, Mr. IB and Mr. AX, or it could actually be a woman.
Right.
So we got to get that research, find out who they were, where they were making these pipes, and crucially, what date. It shows that these were actually very high status pipes. They weren't sort of everyday. These are for people who quite fancied themselves.
Right.
They wanted to be seen, you know, with a high status object, and you know, catch the eye of the nice women or whatever, or a captain who thought, oh, these are well-to-do people. Maybe they were for the merchants rather than for the pirates themselves. We don't know.
So what does a find like this tell you about Nassau?
Well, I think these date at the earliest around 1730, maybe 1750, maybe a little bit later. We've got to do the research. But this tells me that, you know, as Woodes Rogers boasted, I've destroyed the pirates and I've restored commerce. Suddenly the merchant vessels, they're coming back into the harbor. The good days are rolling. You can come and sell globalized products from all four corners of the world without the pirates saying, cheers mate, I'll have that.
So Sean, we have historical gold, we have gold in the form of information, we have gold in artifacts that we've discovered already in the harbor, but the real gold for us would be to find the remains of the Fancy.
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, that is the greatest treasure of all, as a symbol of the Golden Age of Piracy, as a symbol for the Bahamas here. Already what we've done, you know, we have boldly gone where nobody's gone before. We've lived to tell the tale, you know, found the first shipwrecks ever discovered, recorded them, and we think the 3 of them are pirates. So, you know, maybe one of them is the Fancy. We've got to do more exploration before we stick our necks out on that, I think. But this is just the tip of the iceberg. There is just so much to discover and explore right here in Nassau.
The pipes were another reminder that Nassau Harbor still had secrets waiting beneath the water. But this first expedition had only scratched the surface. With multiple wrecks already located, the next question is clear. How many more secrets are still hidden in the harbor? And what will it take to find them?
We could spend a lifetime bobbing up and diving and select places in the harbour, and we wouldn't find a percentage of what's down there. So far we've gone low tech, right? We've just been doing scuba tanks, that's about it. But what we really need is to bring in the big guys. We need to bring in the robots. An automated underwater vehicle that can just plough up and down the harbour with side scan, magnetometers, cameras on it, and just map the entire harbour of the Pirates of the Caribbean for the first time in history. Then we'll have all these hotspots and we can dive on them or send down the robots. And, you know, I think also we should go out into deeper waters. These wrecks are great, but they're not fantastically preserved. If we want to find pristine wrecks, whether it's from pirates or colonial trade, or rum runners from Prohibition, there must be ships out there stuffed full of rum and liquor bottles. All of that is waiting for the future out there over the horizon.
Thanks so much for watching and following along with us on our adventure. If you haven't already, please subscribe to Wreckwatch TV and turn on notifications so you'll be alerted when we get the lab results back from the wood samples, the pipe analysis, and the other tests from this expedition. And if you're enjoying these real-life expeditions, along with the shipwreck stories, history, and adventures we're sharing here on Wreckwatch TV, you can help us keep them going by joining our Patreon. The link is in the description below. Patreon members will get access to exclusive content, including extended interviews, expedition updates, behind-the-scenes videos, photos, and much more. You can also check out our YouTube store and get your very own Wreckwatch Pirate Crew t-shirt. We're already planning to return to the Bahamas to continue the search, and with your support, we can keep exploring, keep documenting, and keep bringing these stories to life. Join the crew, help us return to the Bahamas, and remember, deep down, we care.